Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot and a PMDG 777 beta tester. Welcome to the after landing procedure tutorial for the PMDG Boeing 777. If you're interested in a written version of this, including lots of scan flow diagrams, have a look at my ultimate 777 guide. More on that in the video description below. And now let's get right into the tutorial. We've vacated our landing runway and I've brought the airplane to a complete stop over here. Now, normally you would run this procedure while the aircraft is rolling. You would not particularly stop the airplane for it, but either way will do. So the after landing procedure is initiated by the captain retracting the speed brake lever and bringing it back into the down detent. When that is done, the after landing procedure is initiated. It basically goes top to bottom. Start the APU if the taxi time to the parking position is 2 minutes or less. Otherwise, just delay your APU start so that you don't have an excessive APU runtime on the ground. Today we have rather little taxi time, so I am going to start the APU already. Then we can move down to the anti-ice, and if engine anti-ice is needed on the ground, so if the temperature is 10 degrees or less and there is visible moisture, manually position the engine anti-ice switches into the on position. From here we can move down to the lights and we turn off the strobe lights and the landing lights. Then we can move further down and we are going to turn off the weather radar, and it is also a good idea to turn off the terrain display at this moment so that it's easier visible on the nav displays if any radar or display is still turned on. So if you still have the terrain on like this, then it might be easy to get used to seeing some returns on the display. However, if you make it a habit also to turn the terrain display off, then you are simply used to seeing a black display. If there is anything shown on there, then that is a good indicator that you forgot the weather radar. From here we turn down to the auto brake, which we select into the off position, and we are going to retract our flaps all the way into the up position. Finally, we move down to the transponder, which we turn back into the XPNDR setting. And this concludes the after landing procedure. Now we can commence our taxi to the gate, so I'm going to release the parking brake. And remember, your airplane is usually very light after landing, at least when you compare it with the maximum takeoff weight and the weights that the 777 normally has before departure. So taxiing the airplane is going to need very little amounts of thrust. It is standard operating procedure to do single engine taxi in the Boeing 777. In order to conduct single engine taxi, we need to observe a cooldown requirement of at least 3 minutes after landing, within which we may only use thrust settings normally used for taxi operations, so that means 36% N1 or less. Also, the APU needs to be technically available, but you don't need to actually start it to conduct single engine taxi. So now that we have waited for 3 minutes already, we can go ahead and shut down one engine, and we are going to shut down the right engine over here. Single engine taxi works very well in the Boeing 777, only when you taxi uphill at very high weights, say for example 240 tons and greater. Then you might encounter problems conducting single engine taxi. Otherwise, the plane takes turns without any issues and normally maintains its speed without any further issues if single engine taxi is conducted. You only got to plan your energy management when you are entering your gate, so you want to make sure that you don't have to accelerate over the running engine while making a tight turn. So we're about to make a left-hand turn into a gate over here. We want to ensure that we have sufficient ground speed by the time we start turning into the gate. You may use thrust up to 36% N1 if needed, but you shouldn't, or rather you should, really try to minimize thrust usage as you taxi into the gate. So we're going to take the next gate on the left-hand side over here, number 556. As we enter the gate area, turn off your taxi lights, and then we can start our turn into the gate using our standard procedure. So when the line is at the end of the sliding window, that is when you start your turn onto the gate. As you can see, even single engine, not a problem to do this at all. Once we no longer need greater tiller inputs, we can start braking down for a slower taxi speed into the gate. And here's a little tip for you. In the 777 you sit approximately 4 meters in front of the main gear. If there is no guidance system available, pick the spot on the ground and then search for its extension on the side and basically taxi forward until that point. If you have a guidance system available, by all means go ahead and use it. Alright, and with that we've reached the gate. We're going to set the parking brake and then we can go ahead and carry out the shutdown procedure. So with the parking brake set message and the APU running message confirmed on the iCast, we can go ahead and turn off the fuel control switches. So fuel controls are going off, seatbelt sign off, and next we're going to shut down the hydraulic system. Similar to how we powered the hydraulic system up, we need to ensure that the right system is going to be the last one that's going to run down. So turn off all the hydraulic switches on the hydraulic panel and wait until you see all the fault light extinguished before you turn off the right electric demand pump selector. Once that is complete, we're going to turn off the fuel pumps. Once we ensure that our engines have run down sufficiently, below 20% N2, we turn off the beacon light. Moving further down the panel, we are going to set the flight director switches off and turn our transponder into the standby position. When all of that is done, we can press the checklist button and run the shutdown checklist. And you can see that almost all items on here are monitored items, so the only one we need to carry out manually is the parking brake, because that is a conscious decision. If you have chocks in place, you don't need the parking brake. If you release the brakes, they can cool down quicker, so that is really up to you. In our case, parking brake set, shutdown checklist complete. Congratulations, Captain, you have just successfully completed your first Boeing 777 flight. But it's not over quite yet. We still have a couple of things to do. So normally, the pilot flying is going to open the door page again, the pilot monitoring is going to open the camera page, and the bottom is used for things like the engine or the status display. When the aircraft is getting shut down, the primary flight computers are going to run a self-test, and that can display a couple of messages down here on the status page that are just going to go away again. Wait approximately 3 minutes after the hydraulic pressure system center left right message is shown on the iCast before you record any status message down here in the logbook. Now, since we've just arrived at our gate, we can go back to the ground operations, set our chocks, request the ground power, request the jetway connection, and as all of that is happening, since the chocks are now in place, we can go ahead and release our parking brake. A little look over here into the gear page to show you what kind of brake temperatures you can expect. So you can see that over here on the left wheels we got brake temperatures in the region of about 500 degrees, while on the right side it's a little bit less. Now, that normally indicates that I have a rather strong left foot and a rather weak right foot. But that's just a little indicator to tell you how you can improve on your braking. So on the next one I'm going to apply a little bit more brakes on the right side, a little less on the left side. When the parking brake is released, your brakes can cool down much quicker, which is going to provide shorter turnaround times. And finally we can go ahead and disarm all the doors, open our left entry, and we can go ahead and open our cargo doors as well, so that the unloading operation can commence. Well, and this completes our PMDG Boeing 777 tutorial all the way from New York to London. I hope that you found this one interesting. Leave your feedback in the comments below. I'm very much looking forward to it. And as always, if you're up for more, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And if you want to read up on this one, have a look into my 777 guide in the video description below. thank you very much for watching, everyone. I do surely hope that you enjoyed these tutorials. Leave your feedback in the video description below, as I'm really interested in your opinion on this tutorial series. And finally, if you really love what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and I see you all again on the next one.